You're listening to Slutty Society, a podcast exploring sex, sexuality, and all things in between.
Hey, yo, man, you really don't have to be out here like broadcasting all your fucking porno shit.
Hey loves, what's up? I'm your host, Sheila J, and I am here to explore sex, sexuality, and all things in between. I want to thank you for being here to listen. You're going to eventually get to know me personally and probably my vagina better than some of the people I've fucked. But seriously, I am truly happy to get back to this podcast after putting it on a long ass pause. I'm fucking excited, so let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to discuss some topics I picked out for the episode and talk my shit. Afterwards, get into a few segments I put together related to those topics, and then wrap things up with a quick personal sex story of mine. Now, I want to start off this episode by saying I love to masturbate.
Oh, yes.
That's the sound in my head when I make myself come, but I love to masturbate regardless of if I'm in a relationship or not, or if I'm having any kind of consistent partner sex. I'm still using my sex toys, my vibrators. I'm getting myself off in the shower. I'm getting myself off first thing in the morning. Whatever I choose and feel like fucking doing, right? For me, masturbating is natural. It's normal. But when I think about masturbation, I can't help but to think about some past experiences I've had with different individuals, people I've dated, been in relationships with, who were offended at some level that I would self-pleasure. I was told it was a form of rejection. I was doing something bad behind their back. I was doing something wrong, or I simply made them uncomfortable. So, loves, I've personally experienced a ton of insecurity from different partners when it comes to me masturbating. Shit, I once was in a relationship with someone who demanded I only masturbate if we're having phone or video sex via FaceTime, or if we did mutual masturbation. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically when you masturbate with someone and you both watch each other do it, you watch each other masturbate. But he was adamant me doing so alone, me touching my own body without him meant that there was an issue in our relationship. You know, I struggle when there's any sense of entitlement or control over my sexuality when it comes from someone I'm in a relationship with. That kind of behavior makes me feel beyond suffocated. I definitely believe that in society, there's often this assumption that you shouldn't have to masturbate if you're having consistent partner sex, or if you're in any type of romantic relationship, whatever that might be, however that might look. Every relationship has a different template, so to speak, but there seems to be this unfavorable perception of self-pleasure a lot of times. And I think that stems from things like lack of education or no education about it. The centuries of false information that was endorsed about self-pleasure, and for some people, what they are taught in reference to religion. I can even give you a more basic example. Think about how masturbation is represented in TV shows and in movies. It's either a joke or something someone is getting made fun of for doing. But a lot of times, it's someone getting caught masturbating in the shower or watching porn and masturbating, and their partner freaks the fuck out or gets really upset, right? To me, it seems as though there are a lot of people who associate a partner masturbating with a sense of betrayal or that it means there's something wrong in their relationship. And I think deep down, there is some projection there about their own sexuality more so than the fact that it's about the person who is being shamed for masturbating. But I have a question for you. I want your feedback, and my question is, have you ever caught a partner masturbating? Did this bother you? Why or why not? I want to unpack this some more, so you can send me your answer by DMing me at Slutty Society Podcast on Instagram, emailing me at sluttysocietypodcast@gmail.com, or leave me a voicemail to play at 971-361-6596. I'll also have this question on the episode Spotify page for replies. I use Spotify podcasters to create my podcast, which was previously Anchor. They just changed it. But if you have Spotify, hit me up there and I'll go over feedback in a later episode. Again, the question is, have you ever caught a partner masturbating? Did this bother you? Why or why not? Let me know. All right, I want to switch it up a bit. Since I masturbate quite often, I thought it would make sense for me to give my thoughts about different things that help me get off, and maybe you as well. And the first one of those things I want to talk about is porn. So, I'm a huge fan of stand up comedy. I go to a lot of shows, I watch a lot of it on TV as well, and I watched the special on Netflix not that long ago, Nocturnal Admissions. The comedian is Paul Verzi, and he has this section in his stand up about sex and porn. He talks about how porn has become more intense and how it's changed, which made me think about the why. Why is that? But before I dissect that, let me play you a quick clip from the special. All right, I'm going to pull it up. Okay, here we go.
You know the way weed over the years has gotten stronger and stronger and people have gotten higher and higher? It's the same thing with porn, man. Watching what these two people go through. The end of a porn used to be normal. Just be like, I'll see you later. Now the end of a chick's crying, mascara's all over her face. It looks like she should have a blanket around her in the back of an ambulance like a fucking Die Hard movie.
So good. There's a funny part about giving head in porn on there too, but I think the obvious reason porn has changed is because of the internet, right? I'm a lovely 36, and I remember when people purchased porn on tapes, DVDs, and bought magazines. And because of the internet, those things no longer exist. We now have this increase in access to porn. It's easy to obtain, right? It's also more affordable. Some of it's free, and there's now additionally privacy when watching or choosing certain genres. No one is there to judge you for being into whatever your thing is when you're selecting your porn. People don't have to go to stores any longer to pick it out in front of anyone else. So, with those three new factors, thanks to the internet, easier access, affordability, and privacy, of course, there's going to be this demand for any and everything when it comes to different types of porn. We're going to see a increase of porn that is more intense compared to, before the internet infiltrated everything. And a global industry making billions of dollars is going to create more of that kind of porn because the demand is there now. So I'll let you know I am a basic bitch when it comes to the type of porn I watch. I love a good threesome video, some passionate sex, or a lesbian porn that makes sense. So, if it isn't obvious to you, most porn is made from a male's perspective. That's how a good portion of the industry is, and lesbian porn is made from that same perspective. It's not any different. As a bisexual woman, I'll tell you that I find myself over analyzing lesbian porn. I'll watch it and I'll start thinking about what I would do differently or what I wouldn't do, or that probably doesn't feel good. I just pick that shit apart. Most of it just doesn't match my personal experience being with women, and it takes me longer to find videos in that genre that turn me on, which is kind of unfortunate. Now, when I do watch porn and masturbate, I typically watch it from my phone. I know a lot of people watch it from their laptop, but I'm weird. I don't know why I like to hold my phone. Maybe I enjoy multitasking. I don't fucking know, but I'll have my phone in one hand, porn on the screen, vibrator on my pussy with the other hand, just getting it in right. And I eventually come. But 9 times out of 10, I forget to exit out of the browser. So here's the problem with that. Days later, I find myself somewhere in public, maybe Target, maybe Trader Joe's. I go to both of those bitches a lot, but I'll pull up the internet on my phone to look something up, maybe to Google some shit. And all of a sudden, there's a woman moaning in a DP video because I forgot to exit out the browser from the last time I was watching porn. And that has happened to me more times than I can even count. I need a reminder, I need an alert or something after I come to exit out of that browser. I always forget. Okay, outside of porn, another thing that helps me get off is nude collections. Maybe you have a secret folder, a fake app, special place in your phone, or maybe you don't care about keeping them private and they're stored in your regular camera roll for anyone to find, whatever the case may be, but you look at nudes when it's time to get yourself off. Now, I don't ask people for nudes. I typically get them randomly, unrequested. I get them mostly from men, sometimes from women, but mostly unrequested dick pics or dick videos. And when it comes to me sending a nude or a sexy picture, I prefer to send them on my own without anyone asking. I just want to do it spontaneously. For me, it kind of takes the fun out of it if it's requested from me. I think we're at a place in society with instant gratification and especially with social media, with people addicted to dopamine highs from online interaction, where everyone thinks everything should happen immediately, when they want, how they want, right fucking now. And also the audacity to send unsolicited nudes expecting one in return when I didn't ask you to send me that shit in the first place. But this has me thinking about early in the pandemic when the world was shut down and we were all locked in our homes with nowhere to go, with nothing to do, when we pretended like we were working on being better people when the majority of us were full of shit. During this time period, I received the most nudes from women and men, especially dick pics. And I think I'll refer to this time period as Dick Pic 2020. I've never received so many unrequested dick pics in my life. Just an entire assortment of dicks, like, I don't know, a gourmet candy box, different colors, different sizes, all of the flavors. The universe summoned so many dicks to my phone during lockdown. It was fucking ridiculous. But for me, I only like dick pics if I'm in a relationship or I'm really into someone or, we've established some type of sexual connection. In those cases, I'd love a dick pic from you. Please send me your nudes. I want to masturbate to you, right? There's only been one time that I've received a random dick pic from a stranger that made me intrigued, and let me be clear, it was a video. But I received this during Dick Pic 2020. It came to me on Instagram. Now, it wasn't the standard dick video, a sexy dick stroke. I don't know, is that a thing, sexy dick stroke? But it was a shadow of someone jacking off, almost like a sexual shadow puppet show of some sort. Very innovative. I didn't know if he was going to start making butterflies with his hands or birds. I wasn't sure what was going to happen next, but I'm not going to lie, I couldn't stop watching it. Just thinking back, since it was a shadow, there were no background issues like clutter, spots on the mirror, or random toothpaste in the sink. I'm an observant person, what can I say? But I have to give it up to Mr. Sexual Shadow Puppet for thinking outside of the box. Okay, So I talked about porn, new collections. Let me see. What do I want to talk about next? Ooh, let's talk about a favorite of mine, sexting. I love a nice, nasty, detailed back and forth conversation where someone is telling me what they want to do to me, how they want me, where they want me. I want it to make me hot and bothered to where the conversation is so good. I'll take a screenshot, save it right next to my nude collection in my phone, and read it again and again and again when I'm feeling horny and wanting to masturbate. And for me, the best sexting is when both parties are direct and confident, it's not one sided, and both people are engaged in the conversation, right? Now, I've been trying to figure out for some time, why do I love sexting so much? I know I am a naturally creative person, but I also realized recently that I have a sexting origin story. So imagine a time before everyone lived through their cell phone when texting wasn't really a thing and people still knew how to build relationships face to face. I know, crazy, right? But I was a teenager back then, and sometimes we wrote on paper, then folded it up and passed it to each other in hopes that, the teacher didn't intercept the exchange. During this time period, there was a girl that used to write me fictional sex stories. I'd write her back, add to the stories, but I never felt like my skills were on her level back then. But even so, she continued to write me regardless, and I kept writing her back. We continued this exchange for almost an entire school year, which seems like eternity when you're 15. And I believe that practice, writing those sex stories on 5-star notebook paper and colorful gel pen ink, is how I became the sexter I am today. All right, I know I'm a lot, loves. Bear with me. I have one more thing that I wanted to talk about that assists me with getting off, and that is our own imagination. Sometimes we don't need porn or people to look at. I think some of the best fantasies can be played out in your head, such as memories from some amazing sex you had in the past, or a lot of times things that haven't even happened yet. And I'm going to assume that this doesn't just happen to me, but sometimes I think about someone that is inappropriate while I self pleasure. And let me be clear, I don't mean inappropriate like incest or thoughts of your second cousin, not in that kind of way. We're not keeping it in the bloodline like we're in fucking Game of Thrones. I'm open minded, but I'm not that open minded, okay? But I mean, do you ever think about someone like a boss, platonic friend, a sworn enemy, a nemesis, nerding out there, but someone who would normally be off limits in your life? So, in the past, I've had reoccurring fantasies about people I didn't like or people that got under my skin. And actually, I looked up the why behind that. I'm a researcher, I need to know things. But from what I read, it's not uncommon. So if it happens to you, there are a couple of reasons. So, reason one is it could be a power dynamic situation where you're getting off from having power over that person through your fantasy. Or two, you're punishing yourself by having sex with that person in your fantasy. Both of these are interesting perspectives for sure, but knowing who I am as a person, I'm going to assume it's reason one, the power dynamic. That's why I fantasize about people that get under my skin. Now, I do like to be punished, but not in this way, and that's another topic for another episode. But before I move on, before I forget, I was thinking about something the other day related to using your imagination when you masturbate. And isn't it annoying when you're masturbating and thinking about someone you've thought about before, had no issues having an orgasm to the fantasy of them, but for some reason, whatever reason, it stops working for you? The thought of that person doesn't work anymore. So I was masturbating the other morning and I had to go through several people in my head before I finally came. I felt like I was going to get carpal tunnel from holding my vibrator. I almost fucking gave up. But all right, that's it for the things that get me off. I'm done talking my shit. Let's get into some of these segments. I like to call this first segment in the media. In the media is where I go over an article, news report, or story I found related to sex and or sexuality. And for this episode, all of the stories are related to people getting caught masturbating in public. Let me pull them up. All right, the first one reads, Southwest passenger who masturbated on a flight gets 48 days in prison. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is Spirit airline behavior. What the fuck is going on? But the article says a Southwest Airlines passenger accused of masturbating multiple times during a flight was ordered to serve 48 days in prison. His name is Antonio Sherrod McGarity. Damn, they put his full name out there. He's 34 from Arlington, Texas, and he was sentenced to 1 year of probation after pleading to his sick in-flight self-gratification, in quotes, during a Southwest flight from Seattle to Phoenix. McGarity was sitting next to a woman on the flight when he exposed himself shortly after takeoff.
Pull your damn pants up, boy! I don't want to see that!
She suspected that McGarity ejaculated because he licked a white substance from his fingers. Oh my god, my stomach's turning. The sick act prompted the woman to start taking photos of McGarity, who allegedly used both hands to pleasure himself for about an hour before finally falling asleep. McGarity then admitted to his behavior, telling FBI investigators he asked his fellow passenger if she minded if he masturbated. According to McGarity, the female witness put her hands in the air and said, "It really doesn't matter." McGarity said he thought the woman's reply was kind of kinky and figured she was comfortable with him exposing himself and pleasuring himself at least 4 times. 4 times! Imagine the count if he didn't fall asleep. McGarity, who faced up to 90 days behind bars, was banned from flying commercially throughout the US while on probation. He's also been banned from Southwest Airlines for life, so he will most likely be on Spirit from now on. Okay, next we have a 76-year-old Florida man admits to masturbating next to a 21-year-old woman and touching her thigh on a United Airlines flight. Again, not a Spirit flight, but this flight was from Newark, New Jersey to Boston. So the 20-year-old victim typed a message on her phone to bring the unlawful conduct to the attention of a fellow passenger. So she types on her phone, "Hi, this man assaulted me and touched my leg and is masturbating." What would you do if someone showed you that message on their phone on a flight? How would you handle that situation? Now, the victim became very uncomfortable and did not want to turn and look directly at Robinson to see what he was doing. Instead, she pulled out her iPhone to take a short video of Robinson to see what he was doing. When she watched the video and saw that Robinson was manipulating, who wrote this, his penis through his pants, Robinson's behavior while exiting the plane was also telling. During the deplaning process, the victim approached a flight attendant to tell them about the incident, but she was unable to point out Robinson due to the volume of passengers deplaning. So they got the security footage and saw him constantly looking back as he was headed to the baggage carousel. He was paranoid. Robinson faces up to 90 days behind bars. He also faces a possible fine of $5,000 and a year of supervised release. All right, loves.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
If I catch a stranger jacking off next to me on a plane, my initial reaction will most likely be to punch them in the dick. I'm sorry, but I feel like that's a chance that they are taking by doing that, and a punch to the dick just seems fitting to me, right? Okay, let's do one more. A Florida pastor has been arrested for exposing himself and masturbating outside of a Starbucks. Just an FYI, loves, I don't know what goes on in Florida. Nothing against Florida, but I have found the craziest articles for this segment for future episodes. There are so many stories that come out of Florida. But back to the article. His name is, I'm probably going to fuck this up, but Ingenio Dali Muniz Colon, 39, was taken into custody and charged with exposure of sexual organs. Authorities began investigating when they received a report of a man masturbating on a patio outside of Starbucks. Deputies said that eventually they identified Muniz Colon as the suspect and determined he'd previously, so this wasn't his first time, been charged over a similar incident at the same Starbucks. Authorities didn't provide any further details about the pastor's prior arrest. Look, I need to know what's so special about this particular Starbucks since he keeps coming back to masturbate there. And I need to know if this is his way of making special creamer for his coffee. Ugh. Okay, loves, that's it for In the Media. Okay, it's time to get to the part of the episode where I provide you with some random sex related facts because, well, I'm a fucking nerd. This is the more shit you know. And today I have 5 random sex related facts pertaining to masturbation. Number 1, the American Medical Association maintained that masturbation was abnormal behavior up until 1972. Years prior, if you touched yourself, it was assumed you were at risk of psychological and physical damage. If this outlook was still maintained today, I'd probably be locked away. Number 2, the next time you go camping and decide to make s'mores, just know that Reverend Sylvester Graham invented graham crackers to cure sexual urges, including masturbation. Keep your hands to yourself in those tents and shove a s'more in your mouth. Number 3 is another food invention that was thought to cure masturbation: Kellogg's cereal. Dr. John Harvey Kellogg created this cereal believing people would be less likely to participate in self-pleasure who ate it. I don't know about you, but I prefer to rub one out over eating a bowl of cereal any fucking day. Number 4, I might as well add one more food fact. Ancient Greek women used to masturbate with breadsticks and used olive oil as lube. Now, I can't imagine breadcrumbs in my pussy, but I want to know if they made a special batch of breadsticks for masturbating, or was it just like, well, these are the leftovers from dinner, take your pick, ladies. Number 5, last but not least, pharaohs in ancient Egypt masturbated into the Nile to honor an Egyptian god. So, according to the story, there was this Egyptian god who created the universe after jacking off, and the flow of the Nile was related to how many times he came in the river. The story led to a public masturbation ceremony involving pharaohs and other males ejaculating into the Nile. Wow, the ultimate cum fest. That's it for the more shit you know. I hope you learned a few things you didn't know before. All right, loves, I'm reaching the end of the episode, but before I go, I want to tell you a story. episode's story is called Driving While Wet. So I met this man during a work event and we exchanged numbers. We started going on these weekly lunch dates for a few months. The sexual tension was heavy between us. We flirted often. I fucked each other occasionally. All of that good stuff. Great buildup. But never had sex. Never even kissed until one day after one of our routine lunches, I had to park far in the parking lot of the restaurant we went to, and he offered to walk me to my car. On this particular day, I was wearing a dress that stopped right above my knees. You know, this was back before I worked from home and actually got dressed up for my work day. But we get to the car, he opens my door, I get in, he leans in to kiss me. There we are in the far part of the parking lot making out. Tongues touching, just a nasty kiss, and the next thing I know, his hand is on my thigh, then it's up my dress, and before I know it, he slips his fingers under my panties and starts fingering me like I've never been fingered before. And I will say he did know what he was doing. It didn't feel like I was at the gynecologist, just superb finger action. And we were still kissing as he is doing it, but every few seconds he stops kissing me, looks me in the eyes for a moment, and then kisses me again, still fingering my pussy. I felt like I was in a trance at this point and didn't care if anyone was watching. And I'm so close to coming, but my work cell phone starts to ring. I try to ignore it, but it's ringing back to back. So I answered it, his fingers still inside of me, and of course, there was a work emergency and I needed to get to a certain location as soon as possible. I didn't want to go, but I knew if I stayed with him, I wouldn't make it in time. So we kissed goodbye, I drive away, hot and bothered, panties wet, heart pounding, horny as hell, just a fucking mess, literally. So after leaving our quick interaction in the parking lot, I end up getting on the expressway, and of course, there's traffic due to an accident. No one is moving, and at this point, I am throbbing. I can't contain myself, so I quickly finish what he started right there in park, in my car, on the expressway. All right, loves, it's time to wrap this shit up. I hope you have an orgasm today. Partner is optional. Don't forget to follow the podcast on Instagram at Slutty Society Podcast. You can also send me feedback, questions, dirty thoughts, and your sex-related stories via email at sluttysocietypodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Bye, loves.